Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 34 of the Chosen One Star Wars podcast here on Game Domain. As always, I am your host, Jason, joined by my co-host, Captain.
Here there.
All right, so today we are going to be reviewing episodes 3 and episodes 4 of The Mandalorian Season 2. Both of these episodes were fairly action-packed, to say the least. And had a lot of very cool fan servicey cameo stuff. You know, some people are saying that episode 3 was entirely fan service, and whether or not it was, it was still amazing. So we're fine with it. But we're gonna kind of do what we did with the episode we released for you guys 2 weeks ago, where we talk a little bit about episode 1, then a little bit about episode 2, and then kind of our predictions for the season moving forward. And our predictions for the season moving forward at the end of this episode will be pretty hefty, with the assumption of Ahsoka Tano appearing right away, kind of in episode 5, which Dave Filoni is supposed to be directing, and which is titled Chapter 13, The Jedi. So seems like we're going to be getting Ahsoka this upcoming Friday here in a few days. But so let's just start with episode 3. Just kind of talking about what happened, briefly what happened, and then kind of our thoughts on it. So episode 3 was a little bit on the shorter side. I believe it was only like a little bit over 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I know the first episode, yeah,
35.
yeah, 35. I think the first episode was like 55. I know, because I remember being like, wow, I want this to be long. Second episode, I remember being shorter. I think it was like 45, and then third episode was like 35-ish. And I think the episode 4 that just came out, I think was like 40-ish minutes or whatever. But no, like 24-minute episodes like we got in one episode last season, which was pretty disappointing when we got that really short episode. I can't remember exactly which one that was, but
No.
Episode 3, 35 minutes of just pure nonstop action. I mean, it starts with Mando, traveling with. I don't think we get a name of the species or a name of the character. It's just kind of like referred to as the passenger. And
Just call them frog.
yeah,
people.
the frog people. That's kind of what they're being called, like in the community, like on social media and stuff. They're just like the frog people, and the frog eggs. Everyone's talking about Baby Yoda eating the frog eggs. I was just telling Captain this before we started recording, and I think I talked about it a little bit in the last episode. I really like that new like frog-like species. I just think it's a cool design. And whatnot, and the whole eggs, the whole thing about that they have to, transport the eggs safely and whatnot. I thought that was like a cool, unique plot point to kind of get Mando from point A to point B. One of the things I was like not so fond of in the first season, but I mean, I understand why they had to do it, because it's just, it's like a TV show. There needs to be some filler. Is kind of how there was a lot of parts that just felt like, oh, that only happened to get Mando from point A to point B, and it didn't really mean anything. But I felt like that. Like having this species and having like the idea of getting the eggs and then going to this kind of like oceany water planet where we see like an on-water boat for kind of the first time in Star Wars, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So we saw that, and then like kind of like a fishing boat almost. So it was like really like real worldy and realistic. And obviously we had the first time us seeing the Mon Calamari and the Quarren races on live action screen. They're really only.
Yeah, and it didn't look too bad.
Yeah, they looked very, very good. I mean, obviously, I don't really think it was CGI. It looked like real handmade costumes, which is how Star Wars is always supposed to be. And they looked really, really cool. I was happy to see them finally on screen. Obviously, we get a couple story arcs involving them in the Clone Wars, and they're in all other sorts of Star Wars canon. But we've never really seen any in live action form. The Quarren race, obviously the Mon Calamari people. We had Akbar. So I probably should have worded that a little bit different. I meant we haven't seen the Quarren race on live action yet. So that was pretty cool to see. And then. So I mean, it kind of opens with Mando bringing the frog species lady and the eggs back to reunite with her husband on that planet, and her go reunites with the husband, and then Mando obviously goes with the child with Baby Yoda onto that fishing type thing, because they say that they're gonna show him to a Mandalorian. And then obviously Baby Yoda gets eaten by the thing. Mando gets trapped under there. I thought that was a really cool like action fight scene. The first thing that popped out to me was, oh, this was in the trailer when they were sticking the spikes through, and Mando was like moving his hands. That also just reminds me, I just want to say this point so I don't forget to bring it up later. Apparently, every single thing that we saw in the trailer happened already in this first 4 episodes. So the next 4 episodes are all completely brand new, and we haven't even seen any looks of
Okay.
it. So
Being
that's
very sneaky.
very, very cool to me, because then shit's gonna go down in these next 4 episodes, because
Well,
the
I
whole
mean,
trailer was based off of the first 4 episodes. And I didn't realize this from watching, but I did see like all over that people were like, you watch the whole trailer, every single thing that happened in the trailer has already happened in season 2 so far in the first 4 episodes. So
by the way,
that's pretty cool.
I don't know if it was a thing that they intentionally did or did by accident, but in episode 4, there was a small thing that reminded me of a really nice. It's a nice film, but people diss on it, which was the Rocketeer. Mando flies around like the Rocketeer on that. His entire pose is the Rocketeer. It's great. I know it's like completely just random left field.
Was
thing
that
to
in
say.
episode 4? The one that,
That
look, was
was
that
in-
when he was spinning
that was in
around
episode
chasing the
4.
TIE fighter? At the end of the episode.
No. At the end, like most of the time through the episode, when he takes off on his jetpack doing his stuff, and then
Oh, his
when, you know,
jetpack.
he's
Oh, I thought
taking
you
it
meant
back,
flying.
he's
Okay.
flying.
Oh, I
Oh,
thought
yeah,
you meant.
he
I
was
thought you
flying.
meant I thought you meant in the Razor Crest. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Oh no, when
Yeah.
he's flying on his jet, well, the Rocketeer doesn't have a plane.
Yeah,
He has a
yeah.
jetpack. But he flew around like the Rocketeer, and I spotted it. I was like, that's really cool. I wonder if they did it on purpose or not.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then it was like Baby Yoda, and I was like, ah. And
Yeah.
then I forgot about it.
well, because Jon Favreau does do that a lot, where he like, and then we know Star Wars, the original Star Wars was based off of like Flash Gordon and those comics and shows and whatnot. So
Yeah.
that stuff was kind of so there's a lot of like that type of inspiration, and obviously lightsabers is off of like samurai fighting, so that could have been inspiration kind of to like how Mando flies, and that's definitely something Jon Favreau would probably sneak in there, because we know him and Dave Filoni are like movie and like nerds and nuts, just like all of us
yeah.
are.
But it's just like through all the other jetpack stuff we've seen. The first one we saw, I want to say Deathwatch, but I don't know if they are Deathwatch. Back when we got Mando's backstory,
Yeah.
took off the kind of like
Well-
pirouette where they got the knee up front to
Yeah.
symbolize themselves, and then Mando did that in the other one. And
Yeah.
now he flies around like the Rocketeer, and I'm like, that's kind of weird.
Well-
He doesn't take off like that anymore.
Now you said we're not sure if that's Deathwatch. Now I think we're not 100% sure, but I think we have a good feeling, because when Bo-Katan shows up and takes off her helmet, she does say to Mando, "Oh, they say like he's a child of the Watch or whatever they say, that he was
Yeah.
raised and taken in by
Must be.
Deathwatch because he follows those old sacred Mandalorian traditions in which you're not supposed to take the helmet off." So that's interesting that you brought that up, because we'll get that to a little bit later when Bo-Katan kind of
Definitely.
reveals herself. But that actually is an interesting point, and it almost confirms kind of, because when we got those flashback scenes, everyone was like, "Oh, it's Deathwatch," but then people were like, "Oh, well, we don't really know for sure if it's Deathwatch, if it's just the regular Mandalorians." But now I think from what Bo-Katan said, and that's actually an interesting point, that Mando is kind of like not a descendant, but in a way a descendant, why can't I think of the word? Oh my gosh, I can't think of the an adopted descendant. I
Well,
couldn't think of the word
apparently,
adopted. An
he's
adopted
Deathwatch.
descendant of Deathwatch. Okay, yeah. So and okay, so back to the episode 3
Episode 3.
plotline. So now and obviously that fight scene on the thing, and then when the Mandalorians came in, and obviously you immediately kind of knew it was Bo-Katan by the design of her helmet and whatnot. One thing I thought was interesting was kind of how the Sasha Banks, the WWE fighter, how her character like didn't really mean anything, but like we saw her in the trailer and everyone was like, "Ooh, who is that? Who is she gonna be?" And then we saw a small glimpse of her in that black robe, seeing Mando walk with the passenger and the passenger's husband, the baby eggs and Baby Yoda, like through that like outpost or wherever they were on the water. And we see like the Sasha Banks character, who we don't have a name of, just one of those Mandalorian fighters, kind of like stare at him, and we're like, "Ooh, who is she? What is she gonna do?" And then all she ends up being is just like kind of a background fighter. But then obviously we see Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan saves them, and then Bo-Katan
Played
takes
by Katie Sackhoff,
Yes,
who's
played by
been
Katie
in
Sackhoff.
Battlestar Galactica
Yes.
as Starbuck.
Yes, and who also because the character of Bo-Katan was voiced in the Clone Wars and Rebels, was voiced by Katie Sackhoff, and then the design was based off of
Yeah,
Sackhoff.
and,
Katie Sackhoff.
That I
So
did not know.
yeah,
So when she
Um,
took off her helmet, I was like,
yeah.
damn, they
Wow,
filmed
it looks-
someone really
yeah.
close to Katie Sackhoff, like,
Yeah.
Bo-Katan. And then he was like, oh, she did it in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, she did in the
okay.
yeah.
Damn.
Which that's one of the other things that I'm a little bit skeptical about seeing Ahsoka is, I mean, if Rosario Dawson is playing the physical Ahsoka, they have to have Ashley Eckstein do the voice, because you can't
Yeah,
have somebody else do the
somebody-
voice, because it's not Ahsoka.
Super
Nobody.
dope.
Yeah, so they're gonna have. I'm sure they've probably executed it like almost to perfection, it'll probably look a little bit weird, but to be honest, I've never heard Rosario Dawson talk, so it won't really feel weird. But I guess if it's an actor that like people like know very well, like I guess if you know Rosario Dawson very well from other stuff, it'll be weird to see Ashley Eckstein's voice coming out of like her mouth. But for somebody who doesn't know what Rosario Dawson sounds like, it won't really like matter much to me. So I guess that's a little positive there. But so then obviously, the little Mandalorian fighter trio led by Bo-Katan wants Mando to come help them. Go to that the Imperial ship. And then obviously it's just pure like fight scene, badass stuff. Baby Yoda is left back with the passenger, and the little family there, to keep track of him. And it was just, the whole ship thing was just, pretty badass and awesome. I mean, it wasn't really much plot involved in there, obviously, until the end. It was just pure, really, really cool action, like kind of like we got, a lot of in the first season. And it was just that's really all it was just that really, really good pure action sequences. And, I mean, it just looked fantastic. And, I just, one thing I want to highlight, and this kind of goes into the thing about episode 4, is you see a lot of people in the Star Wars fandom, like, when there's this really, really good, like, female, like, main character, right? Who, like, is in fight scenes and is destroying everybody. And some people are like, oh, she's a Mary Sue, and some people are like, oh, female empowerment, the Force is female, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
the thing that's basically dominated
we gotta look at. Everybody should agree on the fact that a character like Rey, who just has all these crazy powers, people skeptical, like, okay, why is she like that? But like, there are so many like female protagonists in Star Wars that are done so incredibly well that everybody loves, but nobody, because the fandom's so split on characters like Rey, where it's, oh, she's a Mary Sue, and oh, she's this icon. And nobody seems to acknowledge that everybody loves Ahsoka, right? Everybody loves Bo-Katan. Everybody loves like Sabine from Rebels, and everybody loves Cara Dune, who Gina Carano plays, who comes back in episode 4 with Grief Karga, who Carl Weathers plays. So like Gina Carano's character Cara Dune and Bo-Katan are just completely well done, pure badass female characters, where it's not like they're just sick fighters and you just love watching them just completely destroy everybody they come up on screen, and nobody complains about them being powerful and great fighters, because we know why they're great fighters, because we know that Cara Dune was like in the rebellion and was like fighting against the Empire because of them destroying her home planet of Alderaan, which is a really unique plot point at the end of episode 4, which we'll get to. And we know obviously Bo-Katan's Mandalorian history. So it's like, when you want to talk about having female characters, and there's a lot, and there's so much of the Star Wars fan base who just don't want any strong female characters. It's like, no, do them like you do Bo-Katan. Yeah, do them like you do Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, and Cara Dune, because they're just incredible characters who everybody loves, and nobody cares that they're a woman or whoever.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing as well. That other female Mandalorian who was in episode 3.
Yeah.
I was not like, oh my god, she's well overpowered. Look at it. I was like,
yeah,
she's a female Mandalorian.
Yep.
And
and they're amazing, and they're amazing characters, and we're like, that's perfectly fine. Nobody has a problem with it. It's the characters like Rey, who's like, and even you look at Leia, who doesn't love Leia, and you look at even Padme. Like, most people really like Padme. It's just, and then like Rey has become so divisive. Yes.
And then she proved not to be.
Yep.
She started leading the way and doing
yep.
all this kind of stuff. She stepped up, and she didn't have magical Mary
yes.
powers, and she didn't like walk onto the bridge of the Death Star, karate chopped off Vader's head off, Grandma talking off, and then implode the Death Star with a man. She didn't do any of that stuff. She didn't sit with floating rocks around like she's the freaking Avatar. She was like, we've got a job to do. Let's go through do the job. And then Ray just turns up and he's like, oh my god, look, it's a lightsaber. Oh my god, the Force. The best shit ever.
So yeah, we could do a full episode on that topic, but I just wanted to bring that up because we were talking about Bo-Katan, and I just thought that I wanted to make that point during this episode because of Bo-Katan and Cara Dune coming back in episode 4, who I always really loved from the first season and thought she was a great character. So I just wanted to bring that up before I forgot it later. And so then obviously, we have that, that fight scene. And then the big moment was when at the end of the episode, and now, see, so I watched this episode probably in the middle of the day on Friday, and it comes out Eastern time here in America. It comes out on 3 a.m. I probably watched it around 12 p.m. Eastern time. So there was a significant, in that span of, in those 9 hours or whatever, there's a significant amount of people who stayed up to 3 a.m. to watch it, or who live on the West Coast in America and who watched it at 12 a.m., or who live other parts in the country or other parts of the world who can watch it, who already watched it by then, or people who woke up specifically early to watch it. So I was on social media a little bit, and I kind of saw like non-spoiler posts, and I knew something big happened just by like how people were wording their thoughts, and like, oh my god, this episode was amazing, whatever. A lot of people were calling it the best Mandalorian episode they've seen, which I don't think it was close, definitely, for sure. I still personally like episode 3 of the first season when Mando goes back in to get Baby Yoda. That to me was just pure badass. I think that might be my favorite episode. But so people were saying it was the best episode ever, so I knew that there was something up, that I knew something big happened. So once Bo-Katan showed up, I was like, oh, is this the big thing, or is there something else that also happened on top of this? So I was kind of sitting around waiting for like Sabine to show up or Rex to show up. I knew Boba Fett wasn't going to show up. I knew that was out of the equation. We already got that at the end of episode 1, and I'm sure we'll get him later in the season. Or, to be honest, I don't even know. We'll talk about that when we do the rest of the season predictions. I'm starting to lean that we may not even get him until next season, maybe, because they already going to do a season 3. You don't think so? I don't know. I don't know. I guess, but I don't know where Ahsoka, this whole Ahsoka and then Moff Gideon Darksaber with Bo-Katan arc shows up. But we'll talk about that in a second when we get to episode 4. But we keep getting ahead of ourselves. So once Bo-Katan said the words Ahsoka Tano, I was just like, well, there it is. That's the big thing. As big as Bo-Katan being in there was, I was like, her saying the words Ahsoka Tano, that's what was getting everybody going crazy on social media. So I was very, very happy when that happened. And then immediately when she said Ahsoka Tano, I was itching. Oh, I can't wait to see Ahsoka next week. And then I realized, wait a second. In our season prediction, on our season like preview of the show that we did a few weeks ago before the first episode came out, I remember specifically saying that Ahsoka won't show up till episode 5 because that's what Dave Filoni's directing. So then I was all excited, and then I was like, wait a second, she's not going to show up in episode 4 because Dave Filoni's directing episode 5. So I'm still excited for episode 4, but not as excited as I'll be for episode 5 like we are now, just here, by the time you guys are watching this at home, just like 4 days away. So then, obviously, I literally wanted to just fast forward to episode 4. And so, I mean, that wraps up. And then, we did eventually get episode 4, obviously, on Friday. And everybody in, the whole fandom was very pleased with how episode 4 went and how it's setting up for episode 5. And obviously, Dave Filoni coming directing and Ahsoka coming in. And then, obviously, the whole new Moff Gideon arc that was added into the end of the episode. But before we start talking about the plot points and our thoughts on episode 4, Captain, if there's just anything, I know there wasn't really much plot other than Bo-Katan, everybody being like, oh my god, it's Bo-Katan, and then everyone saying, oh my god, she said Ahsoka Tano. There wasn't really that much plot. It was more just kind of pure badass action the whole time with Mandalorians fighting, which everybody loves. So I don't really personally have any like more thoughts on this on episode 3 than that, other than that it was just an incredibly well done episode with amazing fight scenes, and it was just typical well done Jon Favreau Mandalorian, and that's really kind of all I have to say on it. But if you have any like specific thoughts you want to touch on before we move on to the plot coverage of episode 4.
Well, at the minute we sit within the realm of filler, so we've entered filler realm, and that will most likely go. How many episodes have we got in this season? 8.
8, yeah. So
right,
4
so
left.
That will most likely end by episode 5. So episode 5 will end, and then the main stuff will begin again. I don't know. Episode 3, I kind of liked, but I was kind of like, I did find it funny that Mando's ship was basically repaired with bailing wire and everything just thrown on there.
Yeah.
And I was like, when he was doing the countdown to land, I was like, he's just gonna crash. And then he was like, oh, he crashes. I was like,
and then I like how he lands and then they flip over into the water.
It's just like, oh well, okay, I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's because it's filler.
That's how I feel, kind of.
100% there.
Yeah.
It's still good. That's the thing. I'm
yes.
not like, oh, this is just filler episode. I'm just gonna watch them from fast. I'm like, this is filler episode, but I want to watch it because I want to know what happens. That's how I felt, because I'm judging it more on like, oh well, there wasn't that much plot in it, but it was kind of just an action-packed filler episode, and that I'm fine with that, and it was very well done for a filler episode. When you're talking about a filler episode with that much action and that much stuff going on,
That's pretty good. So I like you know, kind of like you said, I don't really have any main complaints. I just don't like, I'm not like in love with the episode because it didn't really mean that much in the grand arc. Obviously you could skip kind of right from episode 2 to episode 4, and all you'd notice is, oh, what happened to the lady with the fish eggs, and oh, Mando's ship looks fixed. That's really all you notice. And obviously, and then you just miss Bo-Katan, which is a pretty big thing, so it's worth watching 35 minutes of a show, and it's worth making that episode.
You'd miss Bo-Katan, but like for the thing of it, for like the grand scheme of things,
yes,
she's not in it that long.
Yeah, she's not in it for that long, and who knows her role for the rest of the season, and if her being in it really meant that much.
Well, I think the end of episode 4 is really the thing that's going to be possibly bring Bo-Katan
back in. And it's going to set up a really cool arc. It's going to, it's going to be pretty epic. And all right, so that covers episode 3. Now let's get into episode 4, which is incredibly action-packed. Obviously, so Mando and Baby Yoda make their way back to Navarro to see some old friends, Cara Dune and Greef Karga, who we remembered both of their names this time. That's a miracle.
Yes.
Played by professional fighter Gina Carano, and famous actor best known as Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers.
Yes, Apollo Creed. Is she actually? Is she a wrestler? Is she
a wrestler?
Like
I'm not.
Or is she...
I'm not exactly sure. Some sort of, I think WWE. I don't think she's maybe she might be like a woman's UFC fighter. I really don't know.
Because I was watching it, and like she like had the guy on the back of her head, and then she threw him. I was like, that's like a table break move.
Yeah. Also, I think she does like all her own stunts and whatnot. I'm pretty sure she does them all herself because she's obviously a professional fighter. Which is why she's such a badass character. And so we get back, then we go back to Navarro. Obviously, one of the cutest scenes I think I've ever seen in anything was when, Catherine, we were talking about it before, was when Baby Yoda was fixing the wires. If you didn't smile ear to ear when you were watching that scene, then you have no heart. Because when Baby Yoda was fixing the wires and making the little noises, and Mando was just telling him, oh no, that one, the red wire, the blue wire, don't put them together, and then he puts them close, they have opposite charges, so if you put them together, and he puts it together, and he just gets zapped, and he goes, and just like sits there, and Mando just walks away. That was amazing, and it's just so cute how like he sent Baby Yoda in there because he perfectly fits in that little tiny square hole, and he's just sitting down in there fixing the wires. Yeah. So that was very cool. Then they go to Navarro. I also like how kind of like he says we're gonna go see some old friends at Navarro, and obviously and Baby Yoda kind of had like a little smile on his face. It's almost like Baby Yoda starting to become like a little bit more coherent, and not like he better not ever talk because that'll ruin him. But he's very smart and intelligent, obviously. Yes, he's he's very smart and intelligent. So he's like starting to like he knows about Navarro, and that's obviously that's not his home planet, but that's where Mando discovered him. So, and that's, where the old friends are. And so then they go and obviously see now when Greef Karga said, fix up this ship, make it as good as possible. Now that one character who came up in the hologram at the end or in the transmission at the end of the episode, contacting the Imperials, right? Now when she, or he, she, whatever, I think it was a she, it sounded like a girl voice. Yeah, when it went nodded its head at Greef Karga to fix the ship, there was a shot of Mando, Baby Yoda, Greef Karga, Cara Dune walking into the outpost of Navarro, and all you could see was them, and then in the corner of the screen you could see that character, the one with the some sort of alien species with the goggles, kind of have a weird look staring at them, and then slowly turn back around, and the eyes kind of saw at the camera, and then went to go look at the ship. Now, for some reason, when I'm not just saying this just because of how the end of the episode turned out, when that happened, I was kind of like, that's weird. Why did they include that alien in the shot? Because it doesn't really make much sense as to why she was included in the shot. She's just fixing the ship. So I thought of that kind of in the beginning, and that was a little weird. And then now, one criticism I have was, I love the technology they used to film this, but I felt like it was very obvious how fake it was when they were walking into the outpost on Navarro. It literally looked like prequel level standing in front of a green screen when they were walking toward it. I was not a big fan of that. All right, you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I was not a big fan of that at all.
So the foreground, so where they were, was a set. Because we do know that they've built sets for interiors and things because, it's a lot easier than having to like mime where a table might be on a screen behind you. But what it is what was projected behind them, so the rest of the planet and all the little shops and everything, was fake. And the way to try and draw your eye away from that was they put up 2 pillars that went into a large arched doorway that they walked in front of.
Mm-hmm.
That
Oh, okay, I
was
see what you're saying.
designed to disguise the fact that there was something, that it was basically a screen behind them or green screen.
Mm-hmm.
But they hadn't properly set the angle at which you'd see. So if you look, it follows. The real set follows all the way up to that archway, and then it kind of pivots up a little bit because the perspective is different. So your eye immediately is like, what? Wait a minute, that's... And then you can tell because it's got this kind of like... So if the door, let's say the floor leading up to the arch is flat, it then shoots off at like a 3-degree angle or whatever, but it's an angle that your eye can pick up on, and you focus more in on it, and you're like, wait a minute, and then you look past it, and your eye starts to realize, wait a minute, that's a little bit grainy, and it looks like all this kind of stuff, and you just like, it's fake, and that's kind of what has gone on with them, but it wasn't too bad, I will admit. It was pretty good, and probably because, you know, I think, did they get these episodes filmed before they had to break up, or did they film these while they were broken up? Did they come back in with a skeleton crew?
I think it was already filmed, because I vividly remember people freaking out at the beginning when the whole pandemic hit in March, being like, "Oh my God, please don't delay Mandalorian season 2." And Jon Favreau came out and said, "We already finished all of our filming." I think they needed like 2 more weeks in mid-March. Like I don't know how it was in England for you, but like in America, like March 13th, which was coincidentally Friday the 13th, was kind of like the end of the world, so to speak. Like that was kind of the day where everything, like that was the last day of like normalcy before everything shut down. So that day, like as of like that day, I think they said they had needed like 2 more weeks to record. So to finish stuff up before they just went into purely editing.
Yeah,
so I think
likely,
I think they just went into I think they just kind of went into like the beginning of the pandemic to like kind of like finish that stuff up just for the first 2 weeks of like kind of going onto like lockdown mode, and then I guess they all went home and worked on them from their houses and whatever, or had minimal people in the studios and whatnot. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure 95% of it was already filmed and already done before that.
I was going to say post-stop, man. It was most likely trying to fix things in post
Yeah.
after it all done, and because it was a skeleton crew to, you know, not risk people's lives.
Yeah.
They didn't have the full force working behind them. I'm literally trying to pull up a picture to see if it's easy to detect on a picture as well. But I mean, they've done well so far in doing all the special effects, and nothing has really kind of, you know, stood out. It was just that one thing that I think has managed to get a few people.
Yeah. So then they go into the outpost, and then obviously I love Carl Weathers' character, Grief Karga. How he reminds me, I'm trying to think of another Star Wars character he reminds me of, but he's just one of those kind of like skeevy guys where he's kind of like a Lando in a way. Like I don't know why. He's kind of like a Lando where he's like all warm and like, "Hey, nice to see you," and then he's like, "Hey, I need you to go blow something up with me." You know what I mean? Like he has that like weird, he has that like that Lando like kind of like personality where he's very warm and kind and welcoming, and then right after he first sees you, he's got a big task for you to go and solve. So I like how he kind of takes Baby Yoda, he goes and he puts him in the school, and then he says to and Mando's like, wherever I go, he goes. I love how he says that again. He keeps saying that. He's like, wherever I go, he goes. And then Grief Karga's like, he'll be safe here. It's fine. We need you for something. And then they go off, and obviously, also I love the blue guy. I don't know what his species is or what his. They said his name. Is it Lopita something?
I have no idea.
Do you want to, here, while I'm finishing this point, could you try to look that up and see if you can find the blue guy in the Mandalorian episode 4? Because I love him. I think he's absolutely hilarious. I love how his face lit up when Mando, because the second I saw him on screen, I was like, that's the guy that Mando put in the carbon freeze in the first episode. So I thought that was a unique callback, and then how Grief Karga kind of has him working for him now. So I liked how they kind of all went off, and they went to go, to that Imperial facility and break that up. And then it started to get like where it was just pure action stuff. kind of like how episode 3 was. But it was very, very good action stuff that was in there. I liked how, Mando kind of just goes off and with the jetpack. He looks like a badass with the jetpack. And then I just loved, like Cara Dune and Grief Karga and Mando and the blue guy kind of just making their way through, shooting, just destroying all the stormtroopers. And then obviously when they see that recording, and when they get to that room, and we see kind of the origins of Snoke, because we see in those tubes that resembles Snoke, and they are obviously failed clones using Baby Yoda's blood, DNA, whatever they tried to extract from the child, which I thought was an incredibly interesting plot point, that Snoke's origins could be kind of directly related to being cloned from Baby Yoda's DNA, which is very, very cool. And they kind of just had a bunch of, just like we saw in episode 9, a lot of people weren't a big fan of, when Kylo went to go visit Palpatine at the beginning of episode of The Rise of Skywalker, and there was just those tubes of Snoke clones all over the place, and it was like, wow, that Supreme Leader was really just like a clone of a bunch of people. And this is kind of what now we see, that Snoke may have had his origins from Baby Yoda's DNA and from them extracting it. You don't think so?
I know exactly what was at the end of episode 4.
What?
Death Troopers. Sorry, not Death Troopers, Dark Troopers.
No, that wasn't. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying when they got to the room where they saw the hologram, the transmission recording of that doctor guy who took Baby Yoda and was trying to and was doing stuff back in the first season, when Werner Herzog's character, the guy who was like little Moff Gideon's little henchman, when he got Baby Yoda from Mando, and then they were working on him before Mando went back in. When they broke into this room and there was the transmission from that doctor guy who was reporting to Moff Gideon saying that he couldn't extract enough from the child, they would have to get the asset, again, which was the child, and then there was those big glass things of clones, and it was Snoke's body in there. Do you not remember that?
Yeah, but that wasn't Snoke's body.
What do you think it was then? Because I thought it was, and I saw on
Dark Troopers are genetically engineered stormtroopers that have the ability to wield the dark side of the Force. They're basically just Starkiller, but not as powerful.
So now, do you think that? I mean, because from looking in those tubes, that's what they appeared to be kind of like a failed clone-ish looking thing like Snoke. I saw a lot of people say that on social media. Do you think then that there could be some correlation between Snoke almost being this incredibly powerful Dark Trooper, or you don't think there's any correlation whatsoever?
Well. So at this point, Thingy's dead. Sorry, Thingy's dead, and I'm doing that in air quotes. Sorry, Emperor's dead. All that kind of stuff's going on. And basically, what remains is people just trying to grasp for power. Now, Dark Troopers were probably something that the Empire was working on while they were fighting the rebellion, and then just never got the thing off the ground.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's going to be the Dark Trooper thing, because they're basically the Mandalorians of the Empire. They're really advanced kind of battle droids in a way.
Mm-hmm.
They're robotic guys. We kind of saw something similar to them in Rebels. The training droids that what's his face uses. Blue guy. Oh, Thrawn. Thrawn uses basically a version of them to train, but some of them were basically humanoids with robotic parts in big, badass kind of
those black armor. Yeah, those black armor that we saw Moff Gideon with them at the end, right? Yeah.
They had dark side powers, not to the point of Starkiller, but they were crazy powerful, and it's the only thing that makes sense. But you can't then take that research and apply it to Snoke, because if you think about it, Snoke was that powerful, and he was the Emperor's
kind of thing, and we don't really think Moff Gideon has. We don't know.
Likely the people who live on Testicle are
Exegol.
Stupid name. But the people who live in there are probably already doing dark side, secrets, cloning, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's what Mary says in the studio. Oh God, that was stupid. It's cloning.
Cloning. Dark Side.
The Caminos have been doing it for like centuries.
The Caminoans. And it's like, wait, how? No, but and then he's like, the Sith cloning. The Sith. It's an ancient thing. And it's like, but nobody knows about the Sith and the Jedi because that like was supposed to be erased from history. So how would that random fighter guy know? Whatever. That's just sequel trilogy criticism. But yeah, okay. So that is an interesting point. I didn't think of it like that. That being the Dark Troopers. But so then obviously, so then they see that thing, and then Mando's like, Moff Gideon's dead, so that have to have been forever ago. And then the blue guy's like, no, that was from 3 days ago. And then Mando's like, if Moff Gideon's alive, then that means. And then the music kind of crashes, and then he starts shooting, and then the storm, and then he just goes off, and he flies the jetpack, and then goes. And then I like the whole little escape scene. I thought that was really well done. And then when the stormtroopers went off on the speeder bikes, like the Endor type speeder bikes, and they fell down the thing, I was like, oop, that's the scene from the trailer. Like it was one of those moments where I just pointed out that scene from the trailer. And then I like that scene when they were kind of escaping, and then when Mando comes in on the Razor Crest, and then the bum ba da dum ba da dum ba da dum, like that, the main Mandalorian score.
They kind of revamped it.
Yeah. The music in the show is just absolutely incredible. It honestly, like I mean. It's like John Williams is obviously the best Star Wars music because nothing will ever rival that. But I mean, this is pretty. The guy who does this is pretty good because it's just such a mix between Western and Star Wars type music, and it's just really, really well done. And it's able to create like its whole own like soundtrack identity where it doesn't really feel like Star Wars, but it still is. Because there's no real like main Star Wars like tracks that are like kind of in it. It's kind of like it's all its own like new stuff, which is very, very good. And then obviously, you know, Mando comes in and saves them, and then Mando kind of goes off on his way. And then, because I remember when like they split up, and then I like look and I saw there was still like 8 minutes left, and I was like, what else is gonna happen? And then I liked how the X-wing pilot, the New Republic officer or whatever, yeah, the police guy. Now I was trying to think, was he the same guy who showed up with Dave Filoni? Okay, that's what I thought. Why do he was also the same guy who showed up last season at the end of episode 6 when they breached the prison ship, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So why is there only 2 police officers in the entire New Republic? It's Dave Filoni. Yeah, it's Dave Filoni and then the heavy-set Asian guy with the gray beard. Those are the only 2 police officers in the entire New Republic because they just keep showing up. But then they go, yeah, and then they obviously interview Grief Karga, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say anything about a Razor Crest. And then he leaves, and then he sees, and then I thought this was really, really interesting where he sees Cara Dune, and he says about Alderaan, and he's like, we could use a fighter like you, and then he puts down the rebellion medallion on the thing, and then she kind of just looks off as he walks away. I thought that was a very, very nice scene. And then at the end, of course, we get the Imperial ship flying over, the iconic scene in Star Wars, like the first scene we've ever seen in Star Wars, of the ship slowly moving over the camera in the middle of space. Then obviously, you know, that like girl, like trooper who or officer who went and told who got the transmission and told Moff Gideon that the Razor Crest had the thing, and Moff Gideon's like that creepy smirk was amazing, and he turns and you just see all the Dark Troopers, and it just sets up.
Moff Gideon, but he's really good.
Yeah, I can't remember who plays him. I think it's Diego. No, oh no, I was about to say. I don't know. I don't know.
We know that he was basically an Imperial intelligence officer.
Yeah.
And then like he's now a Moff, and I'm like, dude, that's very impressive. Like employment straight away.
Yeah.
Like, you've gone from being to a Moff. That's like massive fucking shit right there. You've jumped the gap on some of that.
Yeah.
But and you also have got good aim. Which is impressive for an Imperial, but at the same time, he plays it very monochromatic. He does have his smirks, he does have his bit of stuff, but he's very, very technical, and he's very, like planning things out, and then everything just goes to shit, and he's like fuck, and then he like dives out of the way and stuff, and that's great. But the fact that he's been trying to work towards this secret project, and he sees some sort of goodness for him on the horizon popping up to getting this project off the ground, I'm like, that smirk, I was like, that guy's very creepy now. What's he gonna do? Don't do it. Leave Baby Yoda alone.
Yeah, I know. Don't touch Baby Yoda. Yeah, I know. Okay, so now that we just wrapped up, not talking about episode 4, I want to go into kind of predictions on how we think the rest of the season's gonna go. Now, the ending of this kind of really made me think that obviously Mando is going to go to the planet with Ahsoka. Now, I think this kind of leads to a something in which Ahsoka has a lightsaber duel with Moff Gideon with the Darksaber. But now, if that were to happen, if Ahsoka beats him, then Ahsoka technically has the Darksaber. Then maybe, like, what does Ahsoka do? Just hand it to Mando? That wouldn't be very ceremonial, or that wouldn't be very, like, Mando-like, because we would want Mando to win it himself, obviously, for Mandalore. And also then, where does Bo-Katan play into it with the whole Darksaber thing? Because we know Bo-Katan wanted the information from that Imperial ship as to where the Darksaber was and where Moff Gideon was. And she, like, I guess we know, I guess she knows Moff Gideon's alive, but she didn't say anything to Mando about it, because I guess she didn't know Mando's history of that he thought he killed Moff Gideon. So then Bo-Katan's obviously going to have to play into it. So obviously we know we're going to get Ahsoka in Episode 5. We think Bo-Katan's going to have to come back at some point and have something with this Darksaber arc. We know Moff Gideon has the ability to track Mando now, and he could literally just show up on the planet where Ahsoka is and fight them and try to take Baby Yoda. And obviously we know how Ahsoka is. Ahsoka would be the first one to defend Mando and Baby Yoda to, you know, cause against the Imperial forces to protect, you know, the Jedi and the Force and whatnot, and protect Baby Yoda. So now, I really don't know how they're going to go about all that, but I know that's kind of what we need. That's what needs to happen in these next 4 episodes, which is where I almost think that I don't know where Boba Fett fits into the rest of the season, which is a little weird, a little depressing to say, but I really don't know where he fits into the rest of the season. I don't know where Rex fits into the rest of the season unless he's just with Ahsoka, which could be possible if him and Sabine are just with Ahsoka on this planet. That's kind of how they would come into things. But I don't know. That's the stuff that we know that has to happen. How they're going to do it, I really don't know. All I know is that Ahsoka is going to appear in Episode 5 because Dave Filoni's directing it. We know she's going to show up in Episode 5. It's called Chapter 13, The Jedi. 45 minutes long. She'll show up at some point. And how is Moff Gideon going to chase Mando in Episode 5? Or is he going to wait till Episode 6? Or Episode 7 or Episode 8? How do we know? I mean, it looked like he was ready to take off right then. So, you know, who knows really how it's all going to fit into it. And obviously we know Bo-Katan's trying to hunt down the Darksaber, so she's going to try to hunt down Moff Gideon with her 2 little Mandalorian sidekicks. And so, yeah, so I don't really know. I mean, I personally can't even, you don't have any idea either. Yeah, I mean, I think we're both kind of, I don't really know how they can go about it. Yeah.
4 episodes, we've got to tie, 4 episodes, let's say 40 minutes long, we've got to tie up
the Bo-Katan arc.
Bo-Katan, yeah, which will most likely come back to get the Darksaber off Gideon.
And Gideon hunting down Baby Yoda, so that's a second arc. And then whatever's going on with Ahsoka, that's a third arc. And then Boba Fett showing up, I don't know if that's really an arc or just a cameo fan service. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's 3 major arcs we got to wrap up in 4 episodes, which could be done.
Yeah, I mean, every time I do a prediction, I'm pretty damn close most of the time. So I'm thinking, let's do one of, you know, like Captain's weird kind of things that come true all the time. Let's go with.
They're called predictions. Accurate predictions.
Let's call them premonitions. I'm thinking they got. So we know next episode Ahsoka, most likely on some sort of weird forest planet or something like that. Because Jedi always love ending up on a forest planet.
Could you imagine it's just Dagobah? It's a different name now.
Yeah, they just go like the new Galactic Republic. We won't call it that. We'll just call it this instead.
Or imagine she's like at the new Jedi Temple with Luke Skywalker. You just show up and then it's a Luke Skywalker sitting there. No, I know. I'm just saying.
I think they track. So Moff Gideon tracks. You know, they was like, oh my god, he's landed on the planet. Let's go get him. Like, we finally have a chance. We're nearby. Let's go get him. Or we'll send someone out to go get him.
Let's go get the baby.
Which might be the first appearance of the Dark Troopers.
Yes.
As like a test, and then he'll be like, I'm watching a feed through a Dark Trooper helmet or something. Oh my god, it's a Jedi. What are we gonna do? There's the possibility that Baby Yoda will be captured either this episode, episode 5, or
not for long,
6.
but yeah.
No, which would be like, oh my god, Mando has now basically got to enter full Super Saiyan Mando mode and start beating the crap out of everything. To which point he would probably then hire or like get in contact with Bo-Katan and be like, listen, Moff Gideon stole Baby Yoda, I know where he is, you want to kill him and get the Darksaber? Let's do this, team up time, you know, fist bump and all that kind of stuff. So that would most likely be like episode 6, episode 7 would most likely be, like we're getting ready to go and assault the guy, and then episode 8 would be most likely, if not the end of Goff Midian, Moff Gideon, if not the end of Moff Gideon,
The beginning of the end of him.
The beginning of the end, which would most likely come up in season 3.
Yeah.
It would probably be revealed that he's actually working for some darker, higher power, like they always
Yeah.
are.
Like imagine like kind of how we got at the end of season 1, where we think that he dies and then he just cuts open the TIE fighter with the Darksaber. Imagine like Ahsoka like cuts him in half, he falls down a reactor shaft, and then the last scene, Ahsoka cuts him in half, he falls down a reactor shaft, and then the last scene is him waking up in a garbage dumpster with like mechanical robotic legs, like freaking out.
Are we basically turning Moff Gideon
into where he keeps dying and he keeps coming back. So he gets cut in half, he falls down a reactor shaft. And then he's in some sewage and he grows mechanical legs. Yeah. The last scene the last scene of season 2 is that. And then the why can't I think of her name? What's the lady's name from the Clone Wars, the weird witch lady?
Oh, she's dead, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so maybe she could just come back anyway. Yeah, all of the
dead, like spirits now.
Yeah.
Night Sisters, yeah.
And the Night Sisters. That would be interesting if they do the Darth Maul effect on it.
It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
The next we've either got one more episode of filler and 3 episodes of the main plot, or we're done with the filler episodes and we're now on to like proper main plot stuff. In which case, I think I'm going to be I think my prediction is right. We'll most likely have the next one will either be he turns up, hey, how you doing, Ahsoka? Quick, he's landed on a planet. Let's get him. They'll send someone to get him, or they'll send a prototype Dark Trooper or whatever like that. Moff Gideon like, oh my god, there's a Jedi, and then let's go do something. Next episode after that will potentially be the kidnapping of Baby Yoda to give to Specky Four Eyes, so he can be like, mate, extract more blood from him and let's do some more.
Specky
like, right, okay, but it's a baby, even though it's a 60-year-old baby. And then I think the ending of that will be like, listen, Moff Gideon's got me kid. We're gonna go and we're gonna rescue Baby Yoda. I need your help. And she'll be like, I don't know. And he's like, you can kill Moff Gideon if you do. And she'll be like, I'm in. And then they'll do like super secret Mando fist bump, something like that. And then it'll be like possibly recruiting Cara Dune again, and this time not actually the character he plays in universe, but Apollo Creed, who can come in and box in a little bit. We'll get a bit of boxing. Sylvester Stallone is in episode 7, and they're gonna have or Dolph Lundgren, and he'll just kill him. But that's the joke episode. But it will most likely be Ahsoka next episode, captured Baby Yoda the episode after, and then the final 2 episodes will either be the assault to get Baby Yoda back and then stopping Moff Gideon, or it'll be one more kind of like prep episode, and then the final one will be quick, let's go get Moff Gideon. Oh my god, we've got Baby Yoda back. Oh my god, Moff Gideon escaped, but we defeated him in battle, so here's the Darksaber. I'm now leader of Mandalorian, all the Mandalorians, and then Moff Gideon will be like flying away in something new.
Yeah.
Bring up a hologram.
And he'll be in like 2 pieces with mechanical legs.
Yeah, he'll be steering with his legs and flying with his arms. But he'll probably end up having a message resuming like, the project failed, let's move to phase 2 or something like that. Boom, season 3, we've got Mandalorian Power of the Dark Side, and Ahsoka's evil clone, and Rey is a small embryo that has the power of the entire universe, or something stupid like that.
Rey is like the clone of Baby Yoda. She was like created with Baby Yoda's DNA.
Baby Yoda, I just love the fact that Baby Yoda's a dick. I love it.
All right, so so that pretty much wraps it up for our talk of episodes 3 and 4 of The Mandalorian season 2. We'll be getting episode 5 upcoming here on this Friday. If there's a lot to talk about that happens in episode 5, which we're assuming there will be, involving Ahsoka, then we'll bring you guys an episode. But like we felt with episode 3, there wasn't too much really to talk about on its own, so we figured we'd just wait another week and bring you guys an episode reviewing both episodes 3 and 4. And so we'll see whether or not it makes sense to do a review of episode 5 next week, or wait 2 weeks and give you guys a review of episodes 5 and 6 together. All right, but finally getting into Ahsoka Tano in live action, just 3 or 4 short days away, depending on whenever you're watching this. And we'll see you next